Hey everybody, welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Michael Noland. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Beatles. They've got a couple of new releases coming out this year. As many longtime viewers know, I've been interested in what was going to be presented this upcoming fall. I had a specific hope, and evidently they are going to give us more than just one release. They're going to give us two releases, two album releases. Of course, I'm talking about the Beatles Red and the Blue album. Now, vinyl enthusiasts, no doubt, are going to be really excited about this. The albums are going to be not only remixed, but remastered. It's mastering the remix, right? So it's a double whammy for sure, audibly. And of course, as this album is presented to us, I'll be covering each mix on this channel for sure. Now, I'm like most American fans. I was introduced to the Beatles by the albums that came out here in the States. I was totally oblivious to the fact that what they released in England was different than what we got here in the States. And for a long time, I considered all of the United States albums as total Beatle canon in my mind. But when I found out that they had completely different track listings, sometimes completely different songs on the English versions, and then when I read that the Beatles themselves all held to the idea that it was the English versions of their albums that they considered canon, I had an eye or two, maybe a third eye, opened at that point. From that point on, I started collecting the English versions, and I got rid of, and that was probably stupid, of my American versions. You see, I was enlightened. My eyes had been opened. But you know what? It was after the Beatles split in 1973 that these albums were released, the Red and the Blue album. And because some of the tracks had different aspects to them, and me being a major Beatle fan, I bought it. But I gotta tell you, after listening to these albums for a month, maybe 6 weeks, it was a new thing, and I'd play it daily and get into the differences between whatever. I never played these albums ever again. No doubt the intended target for these albums were the casual Beatle fans. People who really loved the Beatles' hits and even a few of their songs, the big songs from the album, and these two albums were put together in that fashion. But you know what? It's at the point now that I look at albums like the Red, the Blue album, the anthology albums. They're all wonderful. There's all kinds of wonderful stuff to listen to on those albums. But for the most part, I don't listen to them daily. All right? There's a couple of tracks off the anthology that's in a playlist that I listen to quite often, but nothing from the Red and the Blue albums. In fact, my favorite album of this ilk was the Beatles' Hey Jude album. And you know what? It was a lot less expensive and a much better cover, by the way. Now, a couple of channels have claimed that they have insider info that indeed this is what we're expecting to behold in September. Well, didn't we already talk about an insider? That's my question. Let's go back to Penn of Penn and Teller in his interview. I've already covered that in a past video, haven't I? But one of the things that we talked about in that video was that Penn said that that's exactly what's happening, that he knew firsthand that we would be expecting a remixing and mastering of these two albums. Now, he didn't go into what some channels are covering now. Some channels are even claiming that there will be 3 discs on each album rather than 2. I have not heard yay or nay on that. I don't have an insider at my disposal other than Penn himself. And you can bet your bottom dollar on the bottom line that I'll be covering any remixes from any project, whether I care for that project or not. I'm a Beatle aficionado. I want to know what they're doing to our beloved Beatles these days. Now, this all makes some sort of kind of financial sense. It's bound to sell. The Beatles have a brand new single coming out, if you can call it that, and there's all kinds of shenanigans being played on that single. And if the claims of Penn is true, I don't consider that a Beatles single at all. But I'll cover it, no doubt. And what better album to stick it on than, well, in my opinion, a non-album. Add a disc or two, bring over Real Love and Free as a Bird, and boy, that product will sell guaranteed. But here's my question. See, this time last year, we all assumed that the next remix, the next Beatle release, would be Rubber Soul. Last year, they gave us Revolver. I love these two albums. They are my two favorite Beatle albums of all time. The two are albums, right? I've even stated that to me, and George Harrison backs me up on this, they're almost two discs of the same album, thereby a double album. How dare they put Revolver on the back burner to bring out this project? And here's why I'm really pissed about that, folks. You see, there are Rubber Soul songs on this. Are we going to get a remixing on those Rubber Soul songs and then a new remix on those songs on Rubber Soul when they do finally get around to it? Now, I'll tell you what they should have done. If they were going to just skip over Rubber Soul, they should have just gone to the Past Masters project. That's valid. Add those singles to that, give it a total remix, and finally a decent damn cover, and then take this damn album off the market. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of comments from people saying, well, you know, I was just like maybe 5 to 10 years behind you, Michael, and I got to tell you, the Red and the Blue albums were the very first albums I ever bought by the Beatles. And if not for those albums, I may never have become a Beatle fan. Fair enough. I want to hear from you folks on this too, because this is just my personal opinion about this. And my bias is based a bit on the English releases of the Beatles album. Now, there is one album on that list that I would love to see taken off that list, Yellow Submarine, and then put back the remix they did back in the 90s as the proper Yellow Submarine. The day that happens, you guys have seen my video on my ranking of the Beatles album. Yellow Submarine would drastically go up in that list as one of their very best albums. You know, the Red and the Blue albums to me is a Venus flytrap, folks. It's inviting. It brings in casual fans. So maybe with that in mind, it's a necessary album. I think that's sad that if that's true, that it's a necessary album. But if it is a necessary album, go ahead, keep selling the damn thing, but don't repackage it. You know, this whole thing smells of opportunistic to me. We already know that Paul and Ringo are giving their thumbs up on the album, that Yoko and Olivia have given their okays. I would even say that these releases are totally unnecessary. Think about it. The reason they exist is to attract the casual Beatle fans. Now, you're going to add even more murk to that, like casual Beatle fans are that interested in that deep of a dive. I don't know. Maybe they are. I don't think so. And to pretty it up by bringing the more contemporary Beatle singles, which I've never seen as true Beatles singles. They're interesting. And while I'm watching the video on Free as a Bird, it sounds like the Beatles. I love that video and the song and Real Love. They're all great songs, but I don't see them as the Beatles. I never have. John was dead at that point. They're using a demo John had that was never meant to be heard except by John's ears when he decided to record it properly? I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you excited about this release? Or are there some of you, like me, who are a bit disappointed that we're getting the Red and the Blue albums instead of one Rubber Soul album? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video tonight. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You know, that attracts more viewers, all right? And it helps with channel growth. And speaking of channel growth, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now's a good time. All you have to do is hit that subscribe to the tribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you're there, all right? You've got access. You'll be notified of all of my future videos. All right, folks, I'm Michael Noland, and together, you and I, we are the tribe. And I'll see you in my next video.